Hi everyone, welcome to Value. So today I'm looking at Humacyte, and boy, is everything just going off left, right, and center. Gee, it's getting tougher every day to be a Humacyte shareholder, isn't it? Let's unwrap all this chaos that's flying everywhere, sending the stock price down. So closing price was $2.87, and that was from the New York Times article. And then afterwards we have a capital raising, which we expected, but man, the timing is bad. Or maybe, who knows, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you know that it was timed to hit the share price while they were trying to get a raising done. Who knows? But yeah, like, we're looking in the after hours of $2.34, and wow, how do we go about this? So today we're just going to try to unwrap this. Obviously we don't have conclusive answers entirely, but I'll try to do my best in terms of what I view things are. So New York Times, they published this article with FDA approved lab grown blood vessel despite warnings. So we have this one FDA officer that just retired afterwards, and basically he's come out, and who knows if he's paid or not, because he's retired, so he can say whatever he wants, I guess, in some sense. And he's said, he found the results quite questionable. So this is one guy versus the other kind of medical practitioners who found it okay. So you have this one guy's opinion versus a group. So in order for this product to be approved, there had to be a majority agreeing that Humacyte's product was good, and hence why it was approved. So this guy raised issues, and he thought it should have gone for a public review. However, FDA just sent it to some independent parties who thought it was, at the end of the day, fine, that the benefits significantly outweighed the risk. So when you think about it in that sense, it was approved with all the information on the table. This is not something like all of a sudden hidden results brought out. No, it's not that. It's FDA had all the information. And it does talk about that Humacyte presented information to analysts that looked better than it was in terms of the FDA results. And in that sense, it was based on how Humacyte determined a success versus a failure, and how FDA determined a success and a failure. And for Humacyte, they kind of viewed if the vessel was still kind of allowing blood to kind of flow through, they counted it as a success. Whereas Humacyte whereas FDA kind of thought if the patient died or lost a limb, that would count as a failure. So that's where it's really difficult in some sense, because a product could do what it does, but a patient could have so many underlying conditions that even with the product, it may not save a limb, because at the end of the day, this product isn't necessarily going to save every limb. Like, it definitely reduces the chance of amputation, but it doesn't mean it's 100% chance. So that's where it gets difficult between definitions between Humacyte and FDA. So Humacyte does use the FDA kind of interpretation of the results when it sells the product. But back then when it was talking to analysts, it was how they kind of viewed the results. So you can kind of see where there's some, like, some people might question it as, in kind of like a very grey area or even dodgy. So, but I think at the end of the day, it's fine, because obviously the product is still good. FDA had all the results. They thought the benefit was quite good versus the risk. And yeah, like, I think at the end of the day, it seems fine. This just sounds like a hit piece, obviously. And it just depends if the hospitals, like, if it did kind of affect sale results with the hospitals, then that might be a question, that might be a worry. Currently we don't know. So it does, Humacyte should come out and talk about this. But I think they'll probably just say more or less the same, that these are the results. FDA checked all the results. They thought it was fine. They approved it. It wasn't to the extent of the worry that they got a public review. But obviously, there's one disgruntled employee who's just not happy about it, and then they've gone to the media. So that's basically this case here. So it depends how you interpret it. But the way I see it is, a disgruntled employee goes to New York Times. Someone's probably located this information. Humacyte needs money. They go to an underwriter, and then underwriter, or potentially someone close to the underwriter, decides to coincide these two things so they can raise at a really, really low price and get some really cheap shares. Who knows? So I think you just interpret it the way you want, because obviously it's up for interpretation. But that's just my view anyway. So yeah, it's obviously not great when you have these things coming out, and it's very negative, particularly when the share price is under so much selling pressure for all these months. And then we've got the capital raising, which we kind of saw, but obviously it's got to happen because the company is running out of money. It's a bit difficult when you don't know the terms, because we don't know how much they're raising and at what price. So then it makes it really difficult to kind of judge whether this share price is good or not. I think if they can get a good, decent capital raise to kind of fund the company and keep it going for at least 9 months, then I think there's a lot of hope going forward, because basically their sales are at the end, closer to the end of the year, because hospitals are going through a 3 to 6 month kind of value kind of analyst kind of process. So there's not a lot of purchasing orders until then. We are expecting earnings call very, very soon, possibly less than a week, in less than a week's time. So I think people also question that, why don't you post your results first and then raise? But at the end of the day, if you don't have results, it's not really much to post. But at the end of the day, with the underwriters, the underwriters can only raise money if people have confidence in the company and what they're selling. So they can't raise money if there's no confidence even from investors. So if they can raise money, I'd say that's a good sign. But looking at the share price, it's going to be a low price. So until we know the share price, until we know the amount, it's a bit hard to say. And I guess at the end of the day, it's the sales that does the talking. So we can have a hit piece on New York Times by a disgruntled FDA employee. But I mean, in a sense, it's not to say that employee is entirely wrong. The results were the results. So they were not perfect results. But at the end of the day, you had a majority of FDA kind of employees, as a group, they majority decided that this product was worthy of being approved because of the overwhelming benefit. So it just depends how you choose to interpret those results and what this employee says that's come to New York Times, and also what you think of the capital raising. At the end of that, right now we don't have a lot of information on the capital raising. I'll probably do another video after the capital raising, so then we have a clearer picture. I think at the moment we're in a lot of uncertainty. The question is, do you buy more or not? Because it's such good value, but it just keeps dropping. It just gets very difficult sometimes. I think if you believe in the company, but obviously you want all the information to make a good decision, because right now we don't have all the information. We don't know how much a dilution is. We don't know what capital raising price is. We don't know how the effects of this article. The company has not come out and talked about this article. So I think there needs to be a lot more questions answered and we don't know if the share price will continue to fall after this. So yeah, like if they raise at $2, then potentially the share price might drop to $2, and then you probably could buy at a cheaper price, but it's obviously cheap enough. And yeah, you could definitely fault me for thinking that these prices are cheap, but they can always be cheaper. Like I've probably just given up on trying to predict how the share price will react. At the end of the day, like until sales comes through, yeah, there's not a lot kind of lifting it out of this hole, which is really annoying. Even though they've got a world-class product, I think the only thing that's really going to get them through it is, firstly, they do need to raise some money to get them going well, and then basically get a Department of Defense contract. I think once that contract, if that comes through, then things are really good. So yeah, like no matter what medical product, that like majority of products that you see that get approved, you look at the results and none of them are, very few are ever 100% perfect. There's always some underlying problems here or there, and it's the same thing with Humacyte. Product is not 100% perfect, but it is definitely providing a lot more benefit than what's on the market, versus also the risk, and hence why it's got approved. So that's all I can really say for now. Yeah, I'll talk a bit more later on once I've had more time to kind of digest everything, and also once I see what the actual capital raising amounts were. Yeah, like I think it's a very undervalued company. But the problem is there's just like they need sales. Like end of the day, the market's not convinced until they see sales on the board, and until then, yeah, like things are just in limbo with a lot of uncertainty. But I think once sales comes through, Department of Defense contract, then we're in a good situation. And yeah, like it's hard, like it's a tough situation right now, but if they can just turn it around, then things, go in a really, really good way. Yeah, so obviously it's hard to be optimistic, and tell you that, things are going to be better. Like in my view, they will be better, but when things are kind of dropping like this, it's, hard for someone to be like that optimistic, obviously. But yeah, I think, like once they get the sales on board, I think things do get better. But yeah, it's definitely a tough one, like in terms of like how many stocks that you're buying. This one's definitely not the boringest one for sure. Yeah, let me know if you've got any questions or comments. Until then, good luck with anything, everyone.